Now, ladies and gentlemen, the best cheap knives in Counter-Strike Global Offensive in 2022. This is a series I started and completed just a couple months ago. The reason I'm bringing it back up is because of the recent knife spikes in price. With the recent Chinese website called Upin, which is pretty much a renting site where you can rent CSGO skins, a lot of Chinese people and people in general decided to buy up a lot of the lower tier knives and just knives in the game. And with the increased player count around a major and of course the summertime, prices for things are starting to go up quite a bit, to the point where people are asking me to make videos that are updated versions of the $100 budget knives. Of course, the $200, and we stop at around the $500 point, because I feel like that's a good entry to a higher tier, but still a budget knife in CSGO, at least nowadays. And if you guys want to see this series continued with an updated version, maybe we can change things up quite a bit, let me know down in the comments section. Without further ado, this video is of course sponsored by Skins Monkey.
Hi you, yes you. Would you like to get $5 for free for your first trade? Just use skinsmonkey.com and get your extra skins. See description below to enjoy the special promotion and receive 5% cashback for trading your CSGO skins.
So the first knife on our list is of course the gut knife Doppler at the $96 range. And these knives on this list, I'm going to say, are a little bit worse than what we had before, just because of the price. Just because of the prices on these knives have gone up so much. Like, this knife was probably $6 or $7 less just a couple of months ago. That doesn't seem like a lot, but on a knife like this, it can make a very big difference. And the gut knife Doppler, I think, is just a really good budget range. And with this list specifically, you're not going to see a whole lot of options, but we have widened our range with different knives in this video, which is pretty cool. Next up on our list at number 2, the gut knife Autotronic for $90 US, and these are of course all buff listings, especially for the price anyway. This knife is probably one of the cleanest knives in CSGO, especially for that $90 price point, and one of the cheapest budget knives in CS that you can get a good look for. It matches with a lot of skins, it just looks really clean, there's no really big wear on it. You can get this in the battle scarred condition or well worn or field tested or even factory new, and especially if you play on the lower tier settings, you're not really going to notice a whole lot of differences, which is very nice with a knife like this. Now next up is of course the Navaja Slaughter for $92 US. This is a knife that has risen quite a bit recently due to, of course, Upin, the Chinese renting place, which is pretty much the North American version of Loot Bear. And this being, a $70, $80 knife has risen to $90 now. Do I like this knife? No, but some people might, and with the not a whole lot of options you have, especially with the skin on the knife, this is not the worst option in the world. And the pull animation is something I've come to actually not really hate overall. It's just the blade is really tiny. Next up on our list is of course the Ursus knife, but most importantly, it's a blue steel for $90. And with this is pretty much a budget black pearl, which is really, really cool. The Ursus knife recently has been one of my favorite knives in CSGO, just because of how clean it looks. It's pretty much a box cutter, but it just looks like such a clean knife, which I think most people want in the game is that. And with it already being the 4th knife, we already have 3 different knives on the list. So this is a pretty diverse list, which I think most people would want, and it gives people lots of options, right? The skins on the higher tier knives that are on this list and lists like these aren't going to be the best, but at least you're getting diverse options with a knife. Maybe people, and I know some people, like a pull-out animation more than how a knife looks, maybe because they just want to quickly pull it out if they're quick, like maybe on 4:3 or just a really garbage resolution. They don't really care so much about the skin. They rather just have the pull-out animation and then they go back to their weapon and then they finish the round off. And another diverse choice, which is up next, which not a lot of people talk about, but I think are a great option, especially maybe one of the best ones on this list, and that is of course the Shadow Daggers, but most importantly the Shadow Daggers lore in the well-worn condition for $93. These look absolutely amazing in my opinion. Some of the best Shadow Daggers in the game. Shadow Daggers are something that you don't have to have the best wear on to have a good skin, because they're such a small little blade. The only downside to having Shadow Daggers is of course it really unfortunately it actually moves and shakes your screen when you pull them out, which is not a fun thing. And this is a factor cap thing I've done recently, which is really sad, but it's just the way it's gone with this knife specifically. But some may argue you get the price of one and you really get two. Now next up, we're back to the gut knives, but this is probably one of the coolest options on this list, and that is of course the gut knife Tiger Tooth for $99. This is very pricey. This is a knife that's been slowly and surely going up over time, even without the recent price hypes that we've seen recently with knives. But the Tiger Tooth is just such an iconic knife inside of CSGO, but you will be paying for that at the maximum price point in the top 10 knives under $100. It's a classic, clean looking knife that I think is kind of an entry level, maybe collector's piece where you can start collecting tiger tooths, for an example. Once again, the cheapest option on this list, but maybe some will say this is the crappiest option. This is of course the Navaja field tested Safari mesh for $49 US. This is actually the cheapest knife you can find in CSGO right now on a place like Buff, or just in the game in general. I'm sure on a place like Skinport or Bitskins or somewhere else on the market right now, there is a cheaper knife, but that is of course just a user trying to get rid of that, and I have seen prices lower than this. Even on Buff, people can list a price lower than this, or even $45, which in my opinion for a knife in CS, it's a pretty good price. 5 years ago, that could have gotten you a gut knife Doppler, but nowadays this is getting you this. And once again, for an entry-level knife in CS, for just getting a knife in the game, being your first one, it's not the worst option. Next up on our list, the Huntsman Blue Steel, otherwise known as the fake black pearl, just like the Ursus, but this, just like the gut knife tiger tooth, is of course $99 US, which is going to be pricey, but does look really good. This is one of those knives, in my opinion, that just look really, really nice. It obviously has that fake black pearl, and if you guys don't know what black pearl is, here it is on screen. Compared to this, they look very similar. A black pearl is of course a Doppler, for those who don't know, maybe need a refresher. It's a skin that not a lot of people like and not a lot of people talk about. Out of the higher tier Dopplers in the game, like the Sapphire, Ruby, and Black Pearl, they tend to be the lowest in price out of the three, but they're also the rarest out of the three in general. It's just people I feel like don't like them as much, but it's something if maybe you're on the lower budget side of things, like on this list for an example, you can get something that looks like that, maybe change some names up, and you can probably trick some people and flex on some of your friends. And with the last two knives on this list, they're going to be completely different than anything we've seen on this list so far, which is very nice. And that's going to be, of course, up next is the Paracord Boreal Forest Minimal Wear for $98. Now, the Paracord is one of the knives I dislike the most in the game right now. The blade is extremely and obnoxiously long. It feels like it's knocking you in the face like a baseball bat when you whip this thing out.
That's what she said.
But for $98, you're getting a different knife, and some actually like the very long blade, which I'll give props to you for. That's sometimes the reason why I like using the bayonet, because it has a really nice blade. And the skin isn't that bad either. A Boreal Forest is, in my opinion, a budget entry version of a skin onto a decent knife. And the Paracord being pretty expensive, but not a lot of people use it, and it's probably just kind of rare, the reason it's so expensive. And it's something I feel like some people should just try and play with in a server before they maybe buy one, because it's a lot different than you think it is just by actually playing with it. The pulling animation is kind of dull. Last up on our list is of course the Stiletto knife Safari mesh, well worn, for $90. This is a cheaper alternative. This is the same price, for an example, as the gut knife Autotronic, the Ursus Blue Steel, and for a Stiletto knife Safari mesh, I don't think this is the worst option. With this Stiletto knife rising, this is actually part of the reason I wanted to make this video, was because of this knife. It is rising up in price, and of course it was from Simple, it was from some other players just in general, but this a few months ago literally would have been $75. Now it is of course $90. This is one of those knives where I feel like it's more so for the hype, kind of like the Nomad. I could see this price going down once again in the near future, but for right now, I don't really see it going under $90 or $80 or $75 for the crappiest version for one of these. That's just my personal opinion. If you like the Stiletto, you want to play like the pros, I guess this is the way to go. Let me know what you guys thought of this list this week specifically. If you guys want to see the series continue, next week we go best budget knives and best knives for under $200 instead of $100. Let me know down in the comments, because knife prices have been updated significantly since we last did this series. Stay positive, stay sexy, guys. I'm out. Peace.